the Prime Morning Drive. Today we are extremely privileged to have with us the President of the Republic of Liberia as our prime guest to talk about a range of national issues. This is intended to practice the culture of true democracy where the head of state interact with the people. We give you the opportunity to ask questions, foster our democratic culture, and above all, enhance the peace that we all are enjoying today. So we are extremely delighted that the President accepted our invitation, a rare opportunity, and to have us with us this morning. This program is going to be carried live and, on several stations: State ELBC, Fabric FM 101.1 FM, Radio Veritas, the Red Power FM, Orme Radio. Expected, hopefully, we've not confirmed, but I hope they do that. And hosts of community radio stations across the country. OK FM is already on, and they are carrying this presentation live. So no time to waste. There's going to be an hour of interaction with the President of the Republic of Liberia. Madam President, good morning and welcome to the Prime Morning Drive.
Thank you, Mama D. Glad to see you back.
How do you feel this morning being here?
Feel great.
Always lively.
Always lively. Always ready.
I know.
To carry on the work of the Liberian people.
And we are delighted for the opportunity, and thank you for the leadership. Thank you for all you've done for our country, regardless of the challenges we as a people continue to confront. But it's a good thing to have you as a president of a resilient people, like you always fondly said. Thank you very much. My President, I'm going to structure this interaction through three main lenses. We're going to talk about politics. And of course, I want your appreciation of the real state of the economy. And we'll move on to talk about the state of security. And I'll also be interested to get your, to attract your understanding about what it is to be a president of a country coming from war, a political country like ours, and the stress and strain you have to undergo every day to govern and lead. Again, let me say thank you. Thank you very much for coming. And I'm going to start with the first question. Madam President, what actually it means to be president of the Republic of Liberia? What does it bring? How do you feel?
Well, Mamadi, it means tremendous responsibility, particularly when one is rebuilding a country virtually from scratch, rebuilding all the sectors that require development. It means making hard decisions, sometimes decisions that may affect the lives of people, positively as well as negatively. It means making compromises and exercising tolerance, patience, and understanding in the interest of peace. So it's a tough job being president anywhere in the world. I think it's a little bit tougher being president in Liberia.
Yes, the point I read, making compromises, you mean? That is something that it's a very hard decision.
Yes, it is, but you must do it. There's sometimes when you have to let go, sometimes when you have to take a bitter pill, because to do otherwise mean you create tensions, you create problems, and you invite disconnects in the society. So I think compromises is part of a situation that every leader has to face.
Relatively, you've come a long way. This is we're in the middle of your second term. If you have the opportunity, what do you really want to, or you would like to do the other way or change in the Liberian presidency? What about you? When you look back, you say, I hope these were not part of it.
Well, let me say I'm very pleased with what I've done. I set forth to reinstate democracy with all its tenets, and I think I've succeeded a lot in that regard. I set up to re-energize the economy, and I like to say I've done a lot of that too. I set out to restore the reputation, the credibility of our country internationally. I've done that too. That doesn't say that there's not more to be done. There's much, much more to be done, of course. But we're very pleased with that which we have accomplished. So, what would I change? I think I agree with the people of this country that the presidency should be for 4 years. And I wish the legislature would act on that. 4 years, 2 terms, enough for any president.
Okay. Madam President, I have to ask this question. Sometimes, it's a little bit difficult to ask, but since I have the opportunity and as democratic as you are, I think you will not restrict my ability to get the facts out. And this has to do with, you've called many persons to help you to work. And the first term, the second term. But at some point they resign, they go into private life, but they always come back criticizing you. And I ask, is it that you've not been able to manage a relationship with them? Why? Most of the guys are resigned. For example, the Minister of Justice and other people, when they leave, they tend to look back and say what sort of hard things. And how do you manage with those criticisms?
First of all, I don't think there are many of them. Yes, there are some. Criticism is part of the democratic process, and you've got to be able to take the criticism. Sometimes I wish those who work with me and have criticism would criticize while they're inside. Don't wait until they get outside to criticize.
They'll be at the detriment of their job when they criticize.
I do listen to people when they criticize. In any case, like I say, that's it. The only thing that really bothers me about that, if the criticism is with falsehood, if people are not telling the truth, if they're libelous accusations, those are the things that I think one gets annoyed at. But criticism per se, that's part of what a leadership has to take. That's part of life, as long as people engage in exchanges, when exchanges exhibit differences, criticize. That's it. I have learned to develop a thick skin on this one. So
there should be really a thick skin, because if you read the media, most of these things coming up when you go home at night, after reading the headlines, listening to the radio, the criticism very, very big. What was your immediate reaction? What comes to your mind?
Mama dear, I've learned to brush those things off. I can't say I'm immune to anger. I can get angry too. I'm human. And 1 or 2 times I will get angry. But by and large, I accept it. Like I say, my main concern is when people tell lies. And you have a lot of that in this society. I wish people would just take time when there's an issue, the media, for example, and somebody carries a story. Just take the time to check it out. Take the time to ask, to get the truth, and then, put your criticism, if it's justified, by the facts and the information that you've obtained. But we've learned to accept it, learned to live with it, and learned to move on and carry out our responsibility.
Has it in any way damaged or hampered your vigor to govern in a way?
No, it hasn't. What it really has undermined, perhaps, is the country and the country's ability to attract the support, the investment, which is so much needed for us to consolidate the progress we've made. I mean, if people keep hearing criticism, not only of me, but of each other, it's not just me that criticize. They criticize everybody else. They criticize the country. And like I say, if it's not justified, people don't have a means who are outside to judge the veracity, of those statements. And in that particular case, it could harm the country, the reputation, the credibility of the country. And that's when it really bothers me, because I would hate to see anything undermine all the effort we have made to promote peace, to promote democracy, to promote development.
All right, let's talk about security. UNMID is drawing down this 2016, and there are concerns about whether our security forces are prepared. And let me ask are they adequately prepared to fill the gap that will be created by the absence of UNMID?
our security forces are prepared, in the process of being adequately prepared, if I may use your phrase.
Okay.
Training is going on. Many of the units, the agencies are professionally trained, are getting more trained. We're getting the support in that. And they have a determination to take on the responsibility for the protection and the security of the state. And we ought to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they're getting ready. I think they will be ready. And I think they will carry out their responsibility to protect this nation and its people.
You say adequately getting prepared. How long are you going to take us to read adequately?
No. Training of anything and anybody is a continuing process.
Okay.
There's never the limit to learning and the limit to improving. And so they will continue to improve until UNMIL goes. They'll be ready to stand and take up. As UNMIL stands down, they'll be ready to take over. But at the same time, they will continue their training and continue getting better capacitated, better incentivized. And so, like I say, I feel confident. There comes a time when a nation must assume its responsibility for its own protection.
That's part of sovereignty.
Liberia's time has come.
Okay.
And our forces will be ready.
All right, my brother, in your last address, November 19, you stress your vigor to fight ritualistic killing. In fact, you said we're coming for you. But there is one angle that remains a little bit concerned. It has to do with the fact that we don't have qualified, competent pathologists on the ground to help the police. And one of my Facebookers asked me to talk about what are you doing in that regard?
Well, you're absolutely right. That has been a constraint on us concluding investigations in matters relating to ritualistic killings and other types of victimization. Fortunately, the Ministry of Health is now carrying out a recruitment process for a pathologist. Someone we hope will be a Liberian, but maybe not a Liberian, but a pathologist that can be recruited and contracted for at least a year. At the same time, we now have 4 Liberians in Ghana studying pathologists. And so they're being supported by the Ministry of Justice because Ministry of Justice knows that this particular function is so necessary to the completion of their investigation. So while we've had a constraint, I feel very good now that we have a process that will correct this.
Okay, that goes to the economy because we have to go on the line so that you can interact with the people. In your last address, you call Liberian to face stark reality. And I interpret that to get ready for hard times because our 2 basic commodities, iron ore and rubber, are not faring well on the international market. What are you putting in place to get us prepared to face those very difficult times you talk about?
Look, the economy is in stress, but the sky is not falling. Countries have been in stress before, economies have been in stress, and you take measures to be able to mitigate the stress. Yes, we have difficult times because, in 2007, Liberia grew at the rate of 12.7%. Liberia was one of the fastest growing economies in West Africa, even in Africa. Of course, by the time we reached 2008 was the time of the global financial crisis, you may recall. And so that 12.7 dipped to 6%. And we started the process of rebuilding. By the time we reached 2013, we had climbed back up to 8.7%. Then, of course, in that year, the prices of iron ore and rubber, our 2 major exports, declined very sharply. And that was followed in 2014 by Ebola. And so the whole GDP plummeted to 0.7%.
And what does that mean?
Well, what that means is that will affect revenue. When we started the 15-16 budget year, our revenue was $622 million. By the time we hit 13-14, because of these externalities, we had to reduce to 548. Just a few days ago, the Minister of Finance came and told me, look, we have We have balanced appropriation, budgetary appropriation of 340 something million, and I may have to cut still some 60 something million to make sure that we maintain economic stability. And so we're looking at those proposals to see what we can do. But at the same time, we're looking at other measures that we will take to try to overcome. There is a nascent, growing small business sector, particularly Liberian entrepreneurs, that we're going to have means to support to see if they can do. There's an untapped fishing potential that we're looking at to see what we can do. Agriculture generally has the possibility to do things, and once we can get some of our infrastructure like power going so we can have value addition, the potential to diversify the economy into areas away from the extractive industries to agriculture and to other things are what we're looking at. I'll be announcing some economic stimuli measures when I give the annual message to the legislature at the end of the month. And we see what we can do to make sure that we keep the economy on even keel despite the difficulties we face.
But do you think the gloomy state of the economy, as you just mentioned, will have any impact on your agenda to end your infrastructure developments? For example, the hydro, the roads and the rest of them?
No, there's certain of those things that have already been properly planned, properly the foundations for them are in, the financing for them, they were delayed because of Ebola about a year. So you can be assured that 2016 will be the year of deliverables for postponed things that had already been concluded.
Okay.
Now, will we be able to do much more of the agenda we had planned? We may have to cut back temporarily on some of the things. We may have to be, a bit more prudent in financial resources. And I don't want to say all the things we're going to be telling you, but we're going to take some strict measures too, to cut out the excess waste, and there is some waste, in government expenditure. So we're going to identify where those wastes are. We're going to cut them back. We're going to concentrate on improving our productive capacity, trying to build our Liberian entrepreneurship to the place where they can move to a different level. I'm confident that we're going to manage this. It may be tough a bit. It's always tough when you get into an economic downturn. But with good management and with the part of everybody, let's face it, whatever we do, whether it's maintaining peace, whether it's security, whether it's the economy, it depends on Liberians themselves, not just officials, not just government. But Liberians have to want to succeed. They have to want to progress. They have to want to be a part of the dynamics of change and progress. Because if they're not, then we can't move it to its fullest potential.
Sometimes when I'm president, I must say you seem to be very frank to the Liberian people in how you describe the reality of the situation. You call education a mess, and you've given name to corruption several other ways. To me, that's a frank way of portraying how you see things. The way you talk about the economy and, of course, the future, sometimes you want to scare some people. You want to say, the presidency times will get difficult. How do you manage that? Why you keep, saying the stark reality, the real things? Because as a mother and father, when my pastor saying this kind of thing, I would just say, but then I'm done.
But then you're missing all the things I just said. I'm a realist. If things are a certain way, you don't fool people. At the same time, you give people hope and you tell them, I know the situation is difficult, but I want you to know that we can take measures to correct it. We can fix it. We just need for you to believe in it and to participate in it. And so, whether it's politics, whether it's sociology, whether it's economics, I still think I'm an optimist.
No, we can overcome.
Yeah.
We can overcome.
I think so. We would take all the measures that's required to be able to do so, but I don't want to lie to anybody and tell you it's rosy, it's fine, everything would be the same way it was yesterday or 2010 when we were in the boom period. I can't do that, but I can just say to you that we can manage it. We've managed it so far. We'll continue to manage it. And these things are cyclical. Iron ore price will come back.
Okay.
Rubber price will come back. It was $2,300 around about 2010 is 1,000 something today. We're helping the rubber sector through the Liberian Rubbers Association, and we're helping them to add value. So instead of shipping raw rubber or something, they now can do smoke sheets. That will add value, that will raise the revenue, that will raise our export earnings. So we're taking measures. I will talk more about that, when we report to the legislature.
Higher education, we are putting out many students. Is the economy prepared to absorb them?
The government sector, the public sector, may not be able to absorb all of those who are graduating, simply because we already have a huge wage bill. Close to 80% of public resources are going into administration, salaries and wages. But what we hope is that trained people will now have the means to help build that private sector, to build that Liberian entrepreneurship class. And I hope that those who are being trained will select the courses that will enable them to improve upon their productive capacity, so that they can help us to build that middle class, which is lacking. But it will take there will be room for some absorption, and I say the economy will improve, and when it improves, that absorption capacity will expand. But at the same time, we hope that we're going to train a lot of people who will be able, first of all, to replace some of the ones who have been the older vanguards in the system, that the younger people can come and infuse the system and bring more capacity, that some of them will go into the private sector and let us build, this Liberian entrepreneurship that we all talk about so much. The measures we will take, to promote Liberian businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, those measures are now being looked at. Our local content law that is being looked at the legislature. Today, as you know, 25% of all public resources for goods and services must be directed to Liberian entrepreneurs. And we're applying the same thing in some of the contracts that we have for those building our roads and our structures. We want Liberians to take advantage of that. Those who are being graduated to look into that. Form small businesses, take advantage of
You're talking about the Small
opportunities.
Business Act. You're talking about the Small Business Act with the Ministry
Yes.
of Commerce. But do we have monetary mechanism to make sure that the 25% is really going back to Liberians?
The Public Procurement and Commission entity with Mr. Double Jala has really come up with some measuring means to be able to. First of all, they have to be registered with him, so he makes sure that they are Liberian businesses. And then he's got reporting forms. All of the ministries and agencies have to report every quarter, which 25% of their budgetary allocation has been directed to specific Liberian businesses that are registered with Commerce and registered with PPCC. So we hope that everybody will take advantage. We hope that it's going to move smoothly. But it's the first time. Let's make it work.
Okay, we'll follow up on that. Macroeconomic stability, except 2008, we've not gone at least a double digit. It's been really, really stable to some measure. And I keep asking myself, what is the secret? How did you really manage through the heat of Ebola? You were still paying salaries and the economy was in some bad shape though, but macroeconomic stability was on course. What's the secret?
Well, you got good information. In fact, you're right. 2008, we went up to 17% inflation rate, and that scared us.
Okay.
After that, we said, no, we got to make sure we watch this. Central Bank has been very careful to watch this. First of all, whenever we see that the price indicators are of such, the exchange rate out of such, that we'll be faced with inflation, then we cut back on government allocations to make sure that we maintain it. We're very strict